The mystery and allure fades away once you learn the rates. Grand Rise, Divine Rise, blessed be to the day. May be everything that you require to create everything that you desire. Be thankful for the day, be grateful for the day, be into that aspect for yourself. If you open up being grateful, then your day shall flow. Foreign exchange. The proximities of being close to something is different than the aspects of truly understanding without the mystery and the allure. Take it for example of whenever we look at TV, we see rappers entertainers with the foreigns and the foreign, they got the house, they got all of these aspects in that space, and it looks really alluring. It looks really mysterious. It looks real alluring. But then after a while, when you really start learning the rates to that corresponding to have that in your life, to bring that into your space, it kind of loses its fizzle. It kind of loses its space. And when we think about this, that comes into ourselves for a lot of times. When I think about that allure of the foreign people, that foreign themselves, it's everything around you based on how you once knew it. When you start your healing process, it's different when you're inside of a space and you can acknowledge what something is, but we have the understanding that knowledge is not anything until you have applied it, until you have learned how to apply that algorithm to your life. So it doesn't really matter what you're using that in it, whatever, it doesn't matter how exotic or how extended or how crazy the information is that you're getting, until you're applying it to yourself, you're technically just doing what I said in this week's podcast, The Art of Surrender. You're technically using this Trojan horse mentality. I don't know what they teach kids in school nowadays, but I remember when I was in school, and they taught us about the Trojan horse, or you can watch the movie Troy. Either or, it's fine. But big horse, soldiers within it, snuck into a space, boom, went to war and won. My Buddha listening to the God Hour podcast right now. But you put yourself into this space. What I was broken down in this week's podcast is the Trojan horse theory, or the Trojan horse is the identity that you use to go within spaces. The identity that you use to go within a space. But inside of you are all of these soldiers that are going to be used to bring your expectancies and everything that you wanted to bring to your space. What is a soldier's job? To act out a task. So think about the undisciplined thoughts we take into a space with ourselves because we're not familiar with ourselves. Think about the aspect of something triggers us that's not familiar to us. Think about this aspect of that trigger when you're doing your work. Why is that triggering you? What is it triggering about you? What interpretation are you using to lead yourself forward when you're listening to it? This becomes the process of us actually allowing ourselves to do the internal work. Also, everything that's happening, from the biggest thing of COVID-19 or whatever, this happening is the same synonymous thought process as depression, as the same thought process as losing family members, is the same thought process as losing something. Your money's not right no more. Your money's not right no more. You're not able to do the things that you were doing before. All of these aspects are the spirit, or the aspects of the spiritual realm, making you become more familiar with what has been foreign to you for so long. That inner work. that foreign exchange rate is coming at the price of now the job is not the same way that it was. The relationships ain't the same way that they were. The friendships keep getting more and more chaotic. The family relationships start getting more stressed out in that aspect of yourself. And then you're sitting looking around like, I don't understand. Spirit's telling your ass to sit down. The Spirit's telling your ass to sit down and get to work. Stop trying to run away from the work that you need to get to. I remember there was a point in time, even for myself, even in moments now where I'm more self-aware, that when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, that's when the shit happens. It's when I'm not doing what I know I'm supposed to be doing. Even when it was deep down inside and I really had to learn about that space, it was always the most humbling of moments. When we think about the aspect of what's going to trigger you, when it's there to distract you, is going to take your emotional, it's going to allow you to constrict yourself in the comfort of your emotions of being angry, being upset, being sad, or whatever it is. When it's truly there to make you work, to make you get back into that inner work of yourself, that foreign entity that's going to come into your space is going to humble you. I remember being in the space when I was homeless. That shit humbled me. It humbled me to a point to really had to start looking at myself. I remember going through one of the best relationships of my life, and then one of the worst relationships of my life. That worst relationship of my life really humbled me because it set me down in my space. You keep trying to go extend yourself into these friendships and these relationships and these jobs and all of these places, and it keeps shutting you down because you're not getting the same thing that you were used to getting based on something. It's forcing you to sit there and do that work. You can see people and be close to people in proximity. But we think about these aspects of time. I've known them all my life. I known them since this aspect. All these affinity biases that we use. Put ourselves into these spaces with people. And then we're saying that's why that becomes the whole definition of why I'm with this person. Or around these people. Because I've known them for years. They were here for this, this, and this. But in reality, there's a difference between being close and in proximity based on the external aspects and actually knowing them. Because I guarantee if you take away some of the aspects that you have, if you notice that some of your people in that aspect for yourself, I can guarantee if you remove the glamours, you remove your view of potential, you remove your glamours, you remove your thoughts from them, I can guarantee they're going to look totally foreign to you. They're not going to look like what you thought they were. And then you're going to start sitting there wondering to yourself, why don't they look the same? They've always looked that way. You just allowed yourself to park your Trojan horse right in front of their gates and pull you in. You allowed them to pull you into their gate. You allowed them to use their Trojan horse of projecting themselves onto you, and you did the same thing to them. So now that you're sitting in this space in reality with yourself, now you're coming into your humbling moment. This is my superpower. This is when you start going through this process of truly surrendering to the process. Because the longer you don't surrender, it's only gonna get deeper. You're only gonna find yourself sitting there trying to act out your strongest quality based upon your trauma. So no matter which way you go, you're always gonna come back to this work. No matter what you do, you coming back to this work. Sweat more, bitch less. Yes. Betrayal shows the truth of an energy that you kept. Yeah. It's a part of that process. The betrayal is a part of the process. So you may have that friend, that loved one that you trusted with whatever it may have been, and then they hit you with this root of betrayal. They do some shit to you that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this to me. Yeah, you can. Really sit there really step away and really sit there, and you can see how that came up. You can see how that came into that space. You can see how that needed to shatter that, because this is what's happening. It needs to humble you. See, when we think about the aspects of surrendering, when we think about the aspects of submitting, when we think about vulnerability, the first thing that comes to us is that human narrative from the broken aspect, being hurt, being weak, being broken. The only way that you're going to get that work done, the only way you're going to start at being able to surrender and allow yourself to come online with your abilities, exactly, let it go to sea. Put yourself into a space. You're going to have to admit that you've been broken, that you've been hurt, that all these things have happened. It is not going to be on the space where your ego's like, yeah, oh, you've been hurt, let me go pull back the last 16 years where you got hurt. Or you've been sad, let me go pull back. It's not based on your identity going to go find it for you. You're coming to this humble moment into yourself when you're surrendering. And you're like, I've been broken, I've been hurt. It's kind of like when people were talking about when motherfuckers go have a testament to Jesus. This is when you're talking to your higher self. This is the interfacing of talking to your higher self. You're admitting to your higher self, like, yo, I'm this, that conversation. The same thing as the monologue with the inner child is the same conversation you're going to have with your higher self. All of these things are synonymous. The more you start applying that work, the more, when it comes to the aspect of you putting in your work, it's always based on excelling. When you're doing it based on the existence of what I said yesterday, the obsolete being, is always based upon being within that space. You'll notice that when you keep doing things based on existing, you're only going to feel smaller. You're always going to want to feel smaller. But you'll notice when you're actually doing your work and you're in your divine path and surrendering and becoming unified, you'll notice yourself becoming larger. You're going to become larger than the thought processes that were in your space. This is you coming online, your auric field, your angelic field, and all of your fields coming online. This is you being larger than life. This is you being that giant. This is you being that titan. But you gotta do this work. And everything at this point in time, especially during this solstice, during the great conjunction, during all of this shit right here, all of it's gonna lead you back to your work. All of it's going to lead you back to your work. You have no motherfucking choice, period. Either you're going to do your work or you're going to fall lower down in the casting system. And that's what we're going to get into this Friday, but I don't want to get too far ahead. We're going to get into the casting system because after I was reading something about, when I read something about black people can come back as white people and everybody can drop down, it's a lot more deeper than that. I want to get all that information together before we get to that. But I want you to be the best. This week's episode of the God Hour Podcast, The Art of Surrender. This week's session, I did a becoming reading. So tap in. I love that reading. That reading was the reading that I did was all go ahead, all systems go. This week's session, we got into the Trojan horse theory. I created things, downloaded something about the Trojan horse theory, the aspect of submit or repeat, and then we got into the aspects of, I forgot the third one. There's so much energy moving around at the same time. But I want you to be the best. If you're interested in the services, hit me up. GodaCodeAlchemistLLC.com. Yes. We got to get out of this. That's why I named the title of this week's lecture to what I named it. Because we have to take ourselves, just like when I did if you have not looked at the sex lecture for God Alchemist, to get the feel of how when I break down the higher aspect of this, go tune in and watch that joint. Because this Friday we get this polygamy. Merry mother and Christmas. Happy solstice on that one. But yeah, I want you to be the best. I want you to be the greatest. I want you to when you wake up, thank yourself for the day. Thank yourself for the day. Be grateful for the day. That automatically gives you ownership and the intimate power to control, learn, and rise into your day. You only got one choice from here. Either you're going to go up or you're going to stay where you at. One or two. Either you're going to rise or you're going to stay where you're at. The choice is yours. Today is the only day that matters because we understand that everything is a reflection from this day that is to be experienced or observed in the same time as our past and our future. We are all sitting right here in our present of our now. It's what you do from now that's going to take you forward. I love you. We love us. Ashe.